So this one's the doors. And you see the 13. And you see how Jim Morrison's turning with one eye. Okay. Okay, since all this kind of ties into time, I want to show like how these corresponding frequencies connect, and you can see it through your third eye. Sometimes when you're seeing so many connections and your mind starts spinning, it's like the room can be spinning, where you see like, you know, so there's something to be said about, we're talking about meditation. Wali Baba says you see things like a flower over the water. So the way I put things into perspective is, I know I have a Pisces moon, Libra rising sign. I put this in a way that makes sense for me. So to me, I connect the pieces that are kind of like, when I was a kid, I used to do monkey bars, and I used to be the fastest because I used to know how to grip, which one's to grip and to hang on to, and you never go for one that your hand's going to fall off. So this is how we connect the pieces and things fall in place. So to start the story, I'm going to call this the beat of life. So life is good shirt. So life starts with a beat. So when I say this, I'm talking about heartbeat. And we have this electrical frequency. When somebody flatlines, it's like this. So when we look at Abracadabra, it's dealing with the alphabet from A to Z. So in the beginning was the word, and when we look at beginning, we see, we see beg, we see jin, ing, and then ing, or in here we see engine, we see lightning. So if you see lightning, lightning flashes. So this kind of corresponds with that first beat. I'm getting to it. So in lightning, you see engine, you see light engine. So we could look at the word enlighten as it sounds with N, light, N. And here we can see we're going from end to end. So the alphabet starts with A, ends with Z. But if we're looking at the middle, M and N are the end from the start and end from the last. So things fall in place with correspondence when you see the connections. So some of this stuff I've written before, but I noticed like my board was off when I was writing, and I got better markers. So when you look at like first shall be last, when you look at the patterns. Damn, I don't want to run over my dog. You can see that the A is the one difference between first and last when you write it this way, which is also a 1 because A is 1. So I don't want to get too much into numbers and other stuff, but if you look at 0, not only is it 4 letters, but it also equals 1 when you do the gematria. 26, 5, 18, 15. It breaks down to 10. It breaks down to 10, which is 1. Okay, here we go. And that 10 is important too, because when we look at M, N, we get that 1 and the 0 on either side of the M and the N. So there was a movie dealing with time called 12 Monkeys. And the 12 Monkeys, when you look at the 1 to the A, or the O, or the 0 to the Z, that's going 12 in both directions, which also could be looked at 33, which could be looked at 3 in each directions. We know that M and N are the 13. So when you look at O, 0 to Z, we also get Oz. So I want to get more into the Wizard of Oz too, because I got more stuff on that. But I said I'm going to break this down with Abracadabra. So starting with life, the first part of life is the beat, then we get the breath. So if you rearrange the letters in spoke, you can also see B, cos, K-O-S. It's interesting, in Mortal Kombat, they spelled the K, the K instead of the C. Makes me think of MK Ultra. But check it out. So I started this off with the doors. We're talking about doors of perception. So when you say doors, we also see sword. It's spelled differently, but how it sounds. Doors, like you see like dwarfs. If you add that F, which is a 6, or is it dwarves? I don't know, but I see a connection there. So if you say doors, you also see sword. So when Merlin pulled the sword from the stone, it's words from tones. I also see Matthew, Luke, John, but I don't really know all the stories in the Bible. But going into the story here, so we see mountain in the center. Jesus, Christ split the timeline. So we see that cross in the middle of M and N. And, everything emanates. We look at time. Backwards is emit. So we're dealing with a lot of light and shadows, how some things can mean the same thing, correlating forward and back, or can mean the opposite, looking backwards. So we're dealing with left and right. And so when we look at the alphabet, we see L next to M, which we're going to the left from the middle. So it's interesting. It's also, you almost see minnow, like a baby fish going to the right. So when you do OP, if you look at backwards, that could also be PO as positive. And there was a song, Naughty by Nature, down with OPP. So not, we could be thinking about the Ankh, could be referencing a knot. When we say naughty, could be, could be a reach, but I see that. So when you talk about the Virgin Mary is right in the center, the M and the N take on the M sound, and you see the V and the M right there in the center, and you see Christ. In the manger, the M and the N. So I'm going to have to figure out the OP, how that gets in between there. But when you look at when you look left, you can see, if you look at this upside down, that the L, you could also see down. If we look at the M and N connected, that corresponds with the N and the W. So we also see Powell, like Powell Peralta skateboards, which I just picked up some stuff at the skate shop. When you look at the symbology, see here's got his index finger on the crown and the chessboard. And then you can see that this one is obviously Odin. Damn, you see the heart on his third eye. Some of the stuff I didn't even see till I did this. So when we get into Odin, so see how that's Powell? Now we're dealing with left and right. So when we put the R, when we swap the L with the R, that becomes power. So to me, I see that as something occult with Powell Peralta. So you just look at the symbols. I mean, you look at Van skateboard, they always use the checkerboard. So you can see here that this could be wise like the owl. Still in the end in the middle. And then we got owl eyes in the infinity sign. So you also see Lo. When they say Elo, Elohim, the 1 and the 0, that's what breaks this electricity. So we see the 1 as a wand and the 0 as the ripples, or 0 as focus or attention. So we're dealing with cause and effect. So that's why I show the spoke in because. So now this shit gets deep. So we're talking about Christ hijacking the time. He was crucified between the two thieves, which is also the 2 3s. 3 is also spelt with a T. Left is dealing with death. Death in 8. Death in it. Death in 8. I gotta think about that one. Looking to the left. So there's a lot of stuff we got right here. We got Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So we have all these references. So also when you look down, you see when you connect the L, we see dowel. So we see dowel like the tool for building, which I actually did masonry a while back. It's kind of, we get that symbol, which is the play symbol. That's actually pause symbol, the K. But anyway, keep going. So when we say abra, the only word that starts with abra is abrasion. So abrasion means to thrash at. And we're dealing with ripples. So ripples is to rip and to pull. So, this is RENÉG. My channel has to do with energy and frequencies. And I think about the 6 and the 9 a lot. And the reference to energy. So sometimes you need to pull yourself or push yourself to pull yourself up. Sometimes you have to recharge. So when we say abracadabra, cadabra also sounds like cadaver, dealing with death. And death has to do with the West. JKL is the jackal. It takes to the afterlife. So anyway, when you split abracadabra, this shit gets so fucking deep. So not only do we have that AD in the middle, right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 here. So I had this epiphany about the seesaw. So you do so the A and the D right there. Capital D can be looked at as a half circle. So when you look at Dabra, we see bread. And see, that's how to the right, kind of like Christ is to the right of the M and the N. So now we're dealing with light and weight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 6 here and we got 5 here. So when you split it like that, the Dabra is lighter. If we look at this like a seesaw, and then we're dealing with time, because future is imagination. So it's like what we see is weighted down. I don't know, I'm reaching there, but there's a connection with light and weight too. And it's interesting, O to Z is like ounce too, which also has to do with weight. Okay, let me go to my notes. Keep going. These could be looked at as needles too on the seesaw. You can see, because we're dealing with need, we're dealing with Eden, and then we have the one, which would be the one difference. So we've got needle on a meter, meter and meter. Okay, let me keep going here. What made me think of Mortal Kombat was the gym fighting scene where they showed the G when they're fighting in the gym. Sub-Zero and Raiden. So back to the bread and the Dabra, breaking the bread of Jesus. So shout out Louisa V with your comments. I see so much stuff. We're talking about Tesla. Tesla could also be written as stale. Which you see lates, but also like relates. But when we see stale, we're dealing with movement, because we say stalemate, playing chess, there's nowhere to move. Stalemate, you're cornered in. You can't move anywhere. Stalemate. Oh no, my bad. That's even. You're even when it's a stalemate. Nowhere to go though. Nowhere to go. Can't move. Stalemate. Checkmate is when there's nowhere to go. Check. So that's someone that came to me thinking about stale. You also see steel. So steel is also can mean taking one from the other side. Now there's a lot of stories that tie into this. So I mentioned Powell Peralta talking about power, referencing to the left and right. So I also want to show how you can see window here. It's just like reflections. So like that would be a W, where you could see that as together with the O and the P as a D. You know, less the I, but you see window. Less the I could be the one away too. Damn. So then when you look at, I gotta erase this. So when we write out window, I'm gonna get into Finding Nemo and all these, there's so many stories that tie into this. But as we open our third eye, these W's can be seen as a 33 sideways, and then on in the center we see Odin, open, just like the energy frequency. So we see open window, we see Odin, and we know that Odin had one eye. We see that 1 in the 0. Dealing with left and right, or right and left, you can also see like Ralph Lauren, RL, Polo. We're dealing with Odin's horns. Odin's horns is 3 horns. All right, here we go. So dealing with the 3, remember M is the 13th letter